Hello everyone and welcome to another Nighthawk Racing track dive. This time we are at Kyoto Yamagiwa Reverse. A very challenging and exciting track, I must say. Probably one of my favorites out of the fictional tracks we have in this game. And let's get to it. So, turn 1, I usually brake closer to the 50-meter board. You tend to go down the gears until you go basically in either first or second gear, depending on the car and depending whether you need extra bit of rotation or not. And you kind of want to aim for a little bit of a later apex on this corner. And by the time you get to the exit, you should be either in second or third gear, mostly. Majority of cars third gear. And yeah, just be aware that if you go on the throttle a little bit too early, if you misjudge the racing line, you might end up going off the track at the exit. So yeah, just have that in mind. Then for this chicane here, it is one of the most important parts of this track. And once again, braking at the 50-meter board, but this time I don't usually go more than 50% on the brakes. Just a quick braking phase for this corner to get the weight transfer to the front, and you want to try and cut as much of this curve as possible, even going slightly on the grass, so that it helps you have like a straighter line throughout the entirety of that chicane and really maximize your time. Then we head on to the next corner. Once again, 50-meter board, and you should be going down maybe to first gear, perhaps, or second gear. Want to stay as close to this curve on the right as possible, and then upshift before you go full power on the exit. Then we get to what I think is the most important part of the lap, really, and one that is very much high risk, high reward. So what I usually do in this chicane is I lift off just before the end of this curve, and as soon as I get to the end of the curve I start braking. You're going to be around 4th or 5th gear at the entry of this section, so you're gonna go down to possibly 3rd gear by the time you get to this apex. Once again, you want to cut as much of this curve as possible, straighten up your line as much as possible through the chicane, and do the same here at the exit. And yeah, just beware, as always, there are cars that are more sensitive to the curves than others, so always adjust your driving accordingly. Beware that if you get the line wrong, you're most likely going to hit the wall there at the exit, and yeah, even might spin the car or get track limit penalties if you just don't nail down the line and if you cut the corners too much. So yeah, that's why I consider this to be a high risk, high reward section of the track, and always have these aspects into consideration. Now, the long, high-speed sweeping right-hander, I tend to brake just as I get to the end of this curve right here, but I don't go any more than 25% on the brakes, so it's just a little tap on them just to get the weight transfer towards the front, and then you're gonna go full throttle. Once again, get a later apex for this corner, and you want to use the red and white part of the curve only if you need a little bit of rotation. The car tends to understeer quite a lot when you go on the power whilst you're still turning in this corner. So just be careful of the understeer at the exit, so that you don't hit the wall there. It's really easy to do so, really easy for you to pick up damage, and you don't want that. And then we arrive at this very fast section of the track, fast not only in terms of speed, but also as to how quick you need to do your turning inputs. I remember that in previous updates you were able to do this entire section flat out, and maybe in the right conditions you might be able to do so again. However, you might have to do some small lifts here and there just to help you shift the weight of the car and allow you to carry as much speed as you can into here. And then for the final corner, I usually brake after the 15-meter board. You can also use the tire marks on the tarmac as kind of a reference as well. And I start turning in after the 15-meter board as well. You want to try and make sure that you are as close to or relatively close to this curve on the right hand side, but you want to go for a later apex as well, because it is the line that does allow you to carry more speed and get the better exit, which is crucial as you're heading towards the main straight afterwards. So you want to be carrying as much speed as possible. Once again, just like in the previous high-speed right-hander, it is really easy for you to get a lot of understeer at the exit of this corner, especially as well if you're following other cars in their dirty air. So if you have to adjust your throttle inputs and at any point alongside the corner, please do it, because the least thing you want to happen is for you to get on the grass around here and hit the wall and or lose control on the curve, because you're going to be at a very high speed by this point, and it's going to be extremely difficult to catch the car if something goes wrong. Then just full throttle until the finish line, and that's it. That is a lap around Kyoto Yamagiwa reverse. Hopefully this track dive was helpful. If you want to see any more track guides or check any other racing content, please make sure to follow and check out the content here on our My Talk Racing YouTube channel. Also make sure to check us out on the other socials like TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, should see everyone very soon.